Hello class and welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson will be on subtracting fractions with renaming, or we also call this regrouping. So today we're going to be learning about how to subtract fractions when we have to regroup. Remember, our essential question for this chapter is how can equivalent fractions help me add and subtract fractions? So we want to keep that question in mind as we go throughout the lesson today. So today, before we start regrouping with fractions, we're going to look at regrouping with whole numbers. So an example of a problem where we would have to regroup would be 26 minus 9. And if you look at our ones place, we have 6 and we need to take away 9. So if we were to show this using a model, we would have our tens place and our ones place, and we would have 6 ones and 2 tens. And we need to take away 9. Well, if we only have 6, we can't take away 9. So we go to our tens place and we regroup 110. Well, we know that 110 is the same as 10 ones, so we're going to add 10 to our ones place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now instead of 2 tens and 6 ones, we have 1 10 and 16 ones. Now that we have 16 ones, we can subtract 9. So we'll mark out 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we see what we are left with. We're left with 7 and 1. So 26 minus 9 is 17. So regrouping with tens and ones with whole numbers is similar to regrouping with fractions and mixing. An example of a subtraction problem where we would need to regroup would be 3 1/3 minus 1 2/3. Now, 3 1/3 as a model, you would have 3 whole and a third of another. So we would need to take away 1 2/3. Well, if we start with our fraction, we only have 1/3 that we can take away, and we need to take away 2/3. So what we do is we go to our other whole number, our next whole number, and we divide it into thirds as well. So now instead of 3 whole, we have 2 whole, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds. Now we can subtract. If we have 4 thirds, we can take away 2 of them. So we take away 1, take away 2, and we're left with 2 thirds and 2 whole. So our answer would be 2 2/3. So what we've done here is we've looked at our numerator, or our denominator, and it tells us that in one whole we have 3 parts. So we took one of our whole and divided it into 3 parts. So our 3 became a 2. Then we added those 3 thirds to the 1/3 that we already had and got 4 thirds. Then we were able to subtract. We're going to look at another example where there are not like denominators. So here's an example of subtraction with regrouping when there are not like denominators. 4 1/2 minus 2, 4 1/8 minus 2 1/2. So 4 1/8 as a model would be 4 whole and 1/8 of another. Minus 2 1/2. So we want to take away 1/2. Well, we only have 1/8 of a fraction, so we can't take away a half. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is make our fractions like denominators, or like fractions. So if I look, I have 8 and 2, and my multiples of 8 are 8, 16, and so on. And my multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8. So 8 is the first one they have in common. So I need to change my fraction to eighths. So I will go to my 1/2, and I will multiply it by a fractional form of 1. So the 8 is on the bottom. 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 4 is 4. So now instead of 2 and 1/2, I have 2 and 4/8. So I need to take away 4/8 instead of 1/2. Well, I still only have 1/8, so I can't take away 4 away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my whole, and I'm going to make it in eighths as well. So now, instead of having 4 whole, I have 3 whole. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 eighths. So I have 3 and 9/8 minus 2 and 4/8. So now I can take away 4 of my eighths. So I'll take away 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm left with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eighths and 1, 2, 3 whole. So my answer is 3 and 5/8. Let's look at how we can do it without making our models. So we are going to take 6 and 1/2, and we're going to take away 3 and 3/4. Now the first thing we have to do is make our like fractions. My multiples of 2 are 2 and 4, so 4 is going to be the closest multiple. So I will take my 1/2 and multiply it by a fractional form of 1, so that 4 is at the bottom. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. So my 1/2 is 2/4. So now my subtraction problem reads 6 and 2/4 minus 3 and 3/4. And if I have 2/4, I still can't take away 3. So what I have to do is I have to go over to my ones place and mark 6 out and make it a 5. Now, this 4 at the bottom tells me that there are 4 parts in a whole. And I've taken one of my whole and cut it up into parts. So I am going to add 1 whole, or 4/4, to my fraction. 2 plus 4 is 6. So now I have 6/4. Now that I have 6/4, I can take away 3/4. 6 minus 3 is 3. So I have 3/4. So what I did was 6/4 minus 3/4, which is 3/4. Then 5 minus 3, which is 2. So my answer would be 2 and 3/4. I hope you have enjoyed today's lesson. Don't forget to have your independent practice done when you go to meet with the teacher.